We are going to be talking a little bit more about emotional issues. We're gonna go into the anger and sadness. Um, you notice we didn't really hit too much on the happy emotions, but we do need to watch those too because we need to gain control on what we're doing, which is another thing that we'll be talking about. And we're also going to talk just a little bit about the TOPS pledge because people are always wondering about it, and I have a way that for you to look at it in a maybe a different light if you haven't looked at it this way or not. But that's what we're going to be covering tonight, and seeing where we can fit in on some of this. All right, so we did anxiety before because that's an extreme high level one that a lot of people register on. Next ones we have anger and sadness. And the reason that they've picked these is, I believe, is because of the fact that these um, kind of emerge a certain way and they end up being something that can hold us back a lot. Like it says there, it can keep us stuck in the past. These are what I would consider like um, energy vampires. They suck and drain on us big time. It does not mean that we say you cannot have anger and sadness. We have to have our emotions. Matter of fact, if you don't let your emotions happen once in a while, it can cause a lot of other problems. So we always say when it hits and you need to deal with it, you do. You honor it and you say, you know what? I'm angry right now, but I'm going to be able to change it. Basically, what we're trying to say is that we can have the emotion, but not lose control when it happens. We can be sad about things, and lots of people have had reasons to be sad. And we just have to realize there's a time allotment for it, right? We give ourselves the time we need, but we don't want to stay stuck there. Some people have actually gotten to the point, which is actually pretty good if you can do this, where you understand you can be sad periodically over time, right? Certain things come up, it reminds you of something, you can be sad for a little bit, but then all of a sudden you come back and you say, okay, but now I have to keep going on because guess what? Time and everything in the world keeps moving forward. Nothing stands still. If the world stood still, we'd all fall off. That's how you get gravity. Um, so we got to keep that in mind. Like I said, what happens a lot of times is we can get stuck in a really bad way where we keep reliving the past. So, like if you're talking about anger, like some person just makes you angry every time you see them, right? What did you do? When you saw them, you went back in time, didn't you? You went back to whatever they did that wronged you that hasn't been righted. All right. So that's kind of what happens, and we get pulled back. And what happens when we get pulled back like that, we kind of go into a mindlessness. And so then we try to soothe things and do things using past experiences of what we've done in the past. And if we've been changing them, we don't want to go back to the way we handled things in the past. So something that we have to take a good look at. So, what we're trying to do is to get from what we consider irrational thinking and move to more rational. Okay. So, irrational thinking is when you do it when there's really no reason. Okay. These things are done to us. And we want to try to find a way to manage it. Okay. That's what we're trying to do. Um, so, when we try to flip this, it can be a little bit of a struggle because that irrational thinking is the thoughts that kind of spontaneously come up a lot of times. And so we have to have like this inner dialogue going with ourselves all the time. Like it says, talk to ourselves. Don't be afraid to do that. Um, it's okay. But what we have to do is try to say, okay, we're experiencing. So, like I said, you're walking through the steps of, you're giving everything a reason, right? Like, I am angry right now because of this. It's happening now. You put things in the present, right? And you say, I need to find a way to either move past it, resolve it, or whatever, right? You have to come up with some reasoning for it. And that's how you get out of these emotions that can trigger and cause problems is when you validated it, right? And you said, well, I'm angry at this person because they did this to me, and now all these people think this. Okay. Well, now how are we going to move forward to resolve it and take care of it? Because we don't want it to be that every time we see that person, we go, oh, remember what they did to me? That was just horrible. And then relive it and then feel bad about it because that's a big key into when people say things like they backslid, um, they fell off the track, all those kinds of, we have all those little sayings and stuff. But a lot of times that's the reasoning that this happens is because we flip to that irrational, keep bringing and dredging things back up, which is not good for us. We need to move forward. And so we want to become more rational about what we're doing and give reason to what's happening. And sometimes, you know what? There are going to be people that frustrate you, and you just have to say, you know what? I'm just going to let you know you frustrate me. I can't handle this. You're not changing how you're going to act with me. So I need to create a barrier with that person. Okay. So that's some of the stuff that you start to go through and start to figure out and put into motion. And we've talked about that, some of the barriers and all that kind of stuff. So things like that can be tricky, okay? And so we have to work through them. Still experience those emotions though, okay? So irrational ideas are things like this where we're always looking for the need for approval or that we're loved. We need to be competent and near perfect in everything we attempt, right? So many people think that they have to be absolutely perfect in this. Guess what? This journey is not about perfection. It's just doing the best that we can every day. Remember that. So you got to keep that in mind. It's not being perfect, but striving to do the best we can. Got to change the words. Words mean a lot in this whole process. It's terrible when things don't go our way. We can't think that way. We might have to say, you know what? It may not have gone my way, but what if the other way was better? So you need to be open to it. Being alone is horrible. Some people just don't like being alone. Others, guess what? Having a little alone time feels great. So you got to keep that in mind as well. Our worth is defined by our accomplishments. Eh, our worth is defined by how we feel about ourselves a lot, right? Because other people will see what we do and they make judgments, and that's not worth. We are entitled to a good life, and no one should have to suffer. All right. So we have to realize life happens, things happen. How you handle it is what makes the difference. Okay. All right. So we want to gain control on emotional eating. And what this requires is for us to be extremely honest with ourselves. We've talked about some of these things very recently. We need to identify things that are triggers. And I know someone was putting about ice cream can be a stressor for people. Um, it can be comforting in the moment kind of thing. I totally get it. But we have to figure out why did we need it, right? We can have things as treats and be like, you know what? I really, really enjoy it. But if you have a treat more than, a random amount, like more than once a month, then you're probably actually not using it as a treat anymore. But you have to look at things and decide if this is something that's being triggered, right? So that's where you see what you're doing, right? And now we have to go back. Is it to pacify something? Or is it that I'm really truly hungry? And if you're really truly hungry for it and you're really truly craving it, can you do it in a reasonable amount? That's kind of where the gain of control is trying to go because we have to know, are we truly hungry or are we just, well, I'm emotionally hungry, right? So that's what we're looking at. Find other ways to cope. There might be other things that you can do or try. Um, it might be hard if it goes to a craving of a food, but some people have done it by doing things where they found a healthy alternative that kind of satisfied what was going on. Some people, like anger and stuff like that, they want something hard to crunch into. So you never know, maybe carrot sticks. I don't know. You have to find out what's going to work. I'd love to say, do this. This is going to help you cope, but it doesn't always do that. Okay. Your what you use to cope is going to be different than the person next to you. Everybody's coping mechanisms are different. You need to make sure to get some support. Um, we were talking about this at the beginning. We need to find our support systems. Sometimes instead of going for a food item and you don't feel like going for a walk, maybe talking to a friend would help. Um, I remember quite a while ago, there was a thing where people would do it where they'd have buddies, okay, and they would call them up or whatever, back when we used the telephone for not texting but calling. Um, but we'd have it where all of a sudden we'd just have a buddy call up and say, "Hey, how's it going? What you doing right now?" And every now and then they would catch people doing an emotional eating, and it kind of stopped them, right? It kind of made them go, "Oh, I shouldn't be doing this." It just sometimes very coincidentally would land at the time when it was happening. Maybe they're stuffing a cookie in their mouth. You never know. But that support can be a really big one for us. Boredom is one of those emotions that can easily crop in or creep in, and can cause issues because boredom a lot of times looks for food as a companion. Very much so. So if you find that you can do something else instead, to be active, to be, focusing in on having something going on with your fingers, definitely helps. Um, it can help out with that. Or maybe you have to schedule a little time. I'm not saying you have to schedule every single minute of every day so you don't have any downtime. I'm saying you need to break up your downtime so it doesn't turn into downtime relaxation into boredom. Okay. So, like, plan one or two things each day that you're going to do. Plan to have an interaction or a phone call with somebody or whatever. Do that to make sure that you have things going on. Um, I look at my father, he's 85 years old and he has something that he has to do every single day, even if it's something minor, but it gets him up, gets him going, gets him moving so he's not doing a boredom thing. Okay? So keep that in mind. Remove temptations if you are able to. If you know that you have a go-to thing that you cannot control, you may have to remove it. I don't say that people always have to do that because some people can learn how to control it, by exposing to themselves to it in small doses in a pattern. But there are some people who cannot for anything control it. And those people I always say it's better not to have it in the house. Okay? So you're going to have to do some thinking and deciding on it and decide what's going to be the thing that works for you. Okay? All right. So I want to talk just a little bit about the TOPS pledge because you see I put it up on the screen in that 5 minutes before the meeting gets going, because it's way easier to just let you guys all say it to yourself if you want to, because it's not required. Nobody has to say the TOPS pledge. But the TOPS pledge is really not a pledge like the Pledge of Allegiance. It's actually a bunch of affirmations. Okay. And you can take one phrase if you need to from this and decide, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. This is something I can, hang on to and use. These could be those quick little sayings that you need, right? Like the first one, I'm an intelligent person. You know what? I have the knowledge to know whether or not this is a good thing or not for me. I am smart enough to do this. And so you can say, I'm an intelligent person. And then that might be the only thing you need. I'm smart enough to know what to do. Um, the next one fits in with what we're talking about. I will control my emotions, not let my emotions control me. You could just use that phrase and put that up. I will control my emotions and not let my emotions control me. This next one's a little bit longer. You might not want it as a complete affirmation, but you never know. Every time I am tempted to use food to satisfy my frustrated desires, build up my injured ego, or dull my senses, that's kind of like, just talking about all those different things that could get to people. And of course, they use the ones that are the most prominent, right? They didn't say boredom, right? But every time you're used to satisfy those frustrated desires or build up your injured ego or dull your senses, I will remember, even though I overeat, now this is the part that has to change. Even though I overeat in private, my excess poundage is there for all the world to see. That line is not there anymore in the TOPS pledge. I put it there because I have some people who remember the old pledge, and I want people to understand it's an affirmation. If people really need to look at it, they can, but it's not required. We don't put that in there because we say I will take off pounds sensibly, which I like just that phrase by itself. I will take off pounds sensibly. Doesn't that kind of fit and can actually be part of a mission statement? Remember, we've talked about those too. It could be your little go-to thing and says, so if you decide you're going to do this, is that part of my plan of taking off pounds sensibly? And you probably be like, yes or no, right? It could be that really quick phrase that helps you stay on track. Not saying that you have to change your mission statements. You guys all had come up with some really nice ones, and I want to remember that those are there. And so remember that. But it can be that little phrase that might just help you out. I know some people who actually have taken the TOPS pledge and they put it up someplace where they can see it and they say it to themselves every morning as their little reminder of what they're going to do, how they're going to start out their day, saying, I'm an intelligent person. Okay. So these are some of the things that we need to keep in mind. Um, like I said, they're little phrases, little takeaways that can be used. Like I said, it can be helpful, but it is totally up to you. All right. The TOPS pledge every day can be extremely helpful. And like I said, if you realize that it's not a pledge like a Pledge of Allegiance or anything like that, but a bunch of affirmations, it can be that little statement that those little ones, and it can hit you that maybe one of these will hit more on one day than the other. But it's just something quick and easy that we've had people do in the past for a long time to be able to take care of that. I suppose it won't be long, and I can take that other part out because it's been a little while now since the part has been removed from the TOPS pledge. But I'm never quite sure because I know I have some people who've been on here for quite a while. So we are coming up on the end of our program time here. And like I said, I kept the challenge the same. This was the last part of the emotional issues that we're going to talk about. And so that's why this is on here one more time, because I want everyone to track, if you can, your different emotions. So maybe last time you picked an emotion. Well, maybe there's another emotion that you need to pick, or a couple of emotions, or you want to try a couple different days because you have different emotions happening on different days. But I would suggest not just tracking what the emotion was and how you reacted to it, but maybe even start to do things like figuring out where it happened, what time it happened, kind of start building in a little bit more because we're really trying to find the pattern. Because you guys are getting good at setting good plans, food plans, exercise plans, but I don't want them derailed. And these are the things that can derail it. And that's why we spend the time that we do to focus on it before we go back in and talk about those things again. Because I really want you to be successful in what you're doing. Okay? So I know I'm going to have people that need to hop off here. And for those people, I want to make sure to wish you guys a great week and to remember to enjoy this journey. It is the most important journey you'll be on, and I want you to be successful. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop the recording and then we'll get to your guys' stuff because we'll go to Friendship Forum.